My name is Eloise Vance. I am 61 years old, and for the past 4 years, I've lived alone in the house my husband and I shared for decades. He passed away suddenly, leaving behind a void that echoed through every room, but also a legacy of love in the form of this modest home in a quiet neighborhood. We raised our daughter, Kesha, here, filled it with laughter, arguments, and the everyday chaos of family life. The house is paid off, no mortgage hanging over my head. And in recent years, property values have soared. It's a comfortable place, full of memories, but lately, those memories have been tainted by something far more sinister. It all began 3 months after Kesha married Derek Thorne. At first, he seemed like the ideal son-in-law. Hardworking, polite, always offering to help with small repairs around the house. He worked in construction, had a steady job, and treated Kesha well, or so it appeared. But I noticed a shift in his demeanor when he learned about my situation. His eyes would linger on the house, calculating, as he asked pointed questions about the deed, my will and my plans for the future. "Just looking out for you, Eloise," he'd say with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. I answered calmly, observing him closely, but something felt off. The first invasion was subtle, almost dismissible. I returned from grocery shopping one afternoon and found the kitchen. Door unlocked, not forced open, just unlocked. I could have sworn I'd locked it that morning. It was part of my routine. Shrugging it off as a lapse in memory, I entered the house and went about putting away my purchases. But then I noticed something missing. A bottle of bourbon my husband had saved for special occasions. It was an expensive brand, unopened, kept on a high shelf in the pantry for sentimental reasons. I never drank it myself. I searched the entire kitchen, then the living room, even the basement. Nothing. Maybe I moved it, I told myself. But deep down, I knew better. A week later, it happened again. I had an early doctor's appointment, a routine checkup. When I got back, the sofa in the living room was shifted just a few inches from its usual position. I clean that room every day. I know the exact alignment of every piece of furniture. The angle was wrong, and in the sink, there was a glass with soda residue at the bottom. I don't drink soda, never have. My heart rate quickened as I checked the windows and doors. All locked, no signs of forced entry. This wasn't a random break-in. Someone had a key, someone who felt comfortable enough to linger. That night, I called Kesha. "Honey, something strange is happening," I said, describing the incidents. She sighed, that exasperated tone she'd adopted lately. "Mom, you're probably just forgetting things. It's normal at your age. Don't worry so much about little details." In the background, I heard Derek chuckle softly, low, almost inaudible, but unmistakable. That laugh sent a chill down my spine. It confirmed what I was beginning to suspect. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was deliberate. 5 days later, the intrusions escalated. I keep emergency cash in an old coffee tin in the pantry, an outdated habit from my younger days. Never more than a couple $100. I'd counted it 2 days prior. $220 set aside for the gardener. Now it was $120. Exactly. $100 missing. A crisp bill gone without a trace. No other disturbances, but it was clear. Someone was entering my home regularly, taking what they wanted and leaving no obvious evidence. I didn't call Kesha this time. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table sipping tea, piecing it together. Only 3 people had keys since I'd changed the locks. After my husband's death, me, Kesha, and my elderly neighbor, Mr. Harlan, who waters my plants when I'm away. Mr. Harlan is 70, walks with a cane and can barely manage his own yard. Definitely not him. That left Kesha, or someone with access to her keys. Derek, the man who'd eyed my house like a prize, who laughed at my concerns. It fit too perfectly. To confirm, I started setting traps, subtle markers only I would notice. A strand of hair taped to the front door handle, a coin placed at a precise angle on the windowsill, a light dusting of flour on the dining table that I'd forgotten to wipe away. Every time I left the house, even for short errands, I'd return to find them disturbed. The hair on the floor, the coin flipped, fingerprints in the flour. Someone was coming in, and the frequency ramped up, from once a week to twice, then 3 times. One week it happened 5 times in 7 days. I kept a notebook hidden in my bedroom, logging every incident, dates, times, displaced objects, missing items. Small things began vanishing, an antique watch from my father, a silver box, framed photographs. Sentimental more than valuable, but each loss stung. The worst was my husband's wedding band, kept in a box on my dresser. It wasn't gold-plated luxury, just a simple ring symbolizing 40 years of marriage. When it disappeared, grief mixed with rage. This wasn't theft. It was violation. I decided to confront Derek. I drove to their house on a Sunday afternoon. He opened the door with that condescending smile. Eloise, what a surprise. Kesha emerged from the kitchen looking concerned. I laid it out. The break-ins, the missing items, the money. Derek feigned worry, shaking his head. Maybe you're mixing things up. It happens sometimes with age. Kesha chimed in, suggesting I move to a smaller apartment, where there are people around to help. Derek nodded vigorously, adding that the house was too much for me alone. I swallowed my anger, thanked them for their concern, and left. On the drive home, clarity hit. Derek wouldn't stop. Kesha was under his thumb and I was on my own. But they didn't know my background. 30 years as an IRS auditor. Tracking fraud, building airtight cases against cheats who thought they were untouchable. If this was a game, I knew how to play it to win. The next day, I bought my first security camera, a tiny device disguised as a smoke detector. I installed it in the living room myself, no professional help to avoid suspicion. Over 2 weeks, I added 5 more. Kitchen, hallway, bedroom, study, all linked to an app on my phone, recording to the cloud. I established a predictable routine, grocery shopping every Thursday morning to lure him in. 3 days after setup, my phone buzzed during shopping, motion detected. Opening the feed, there he was, Derek, strolling into my living room like he owned it. No rush, no nerves. He headed to my husband's study, rifled through drawers, pocketed an antique fountain pen. Then, casually, he grabbed a beer from my fridge and sipped it, leaning on the counter. 42 minutes he lingered as if it were routine. I finished shopping calmly, returned home to find everything normal, except the missing pen and empty bottle in recycling. That night, I reviewed the footage obsessively. Over the next 2 weeks, he entered 7 more times, sometimes alone, sometimes with a friend named Marcus. They lounged on my sofa, watched my TV, ate my food. Once, they stashed a box in the basement, knowing my knees kept me from going down often. They were treating my home like a storage unit, a hangout spot. The worst was a Saturday night. I was at a friend's dinner when alerts flooded my phone. Derek had brought 5 people, music blaring, liquor on my dining table, smoking indoors. They spilled on the rug my husband and I bought for our 20th anniversary. I recorded it all, fury building, but I stayed composed. Folders on my computer, dates, invasion types, stolen items. The value exceeded $4,000, not a fortune, but evidence of burglary, trespassing. 2 weeks post-cameras, I called Kesha for help with house documents. She brought Derek, of course. We sat in the living room, ironically, where he'd partied days before. Casually, I mentioned considering cameras for safety. Derek's panic flashed briefly, then he offered to install them himself. Kesha pushed selling the house again. Derek suggested $110,000, a third of its $350,000 value. I smiled, said I'd think about it. They left relieved, thinking I'd bite. Alone, I reviewed 40 invasions, 40 violations. Derek's plan: erode my security, manipulate Kesha, grab my property cheap. But he'd underestimated me. I'd hunted bigger frauds. He was just another. Now for the final phase. Invasion 41 was Tuesday afternoon during yoga. Alerts showed Derek with Marcus and another man heading to the basement with tools. I left class early, arrived home to find them gone. Downstairs, they'd punched a hole in the wall, digging toward the crawl space. Why? A joke I'd told Kesha about my husband. Burying treasure in walls. Derek took it literally. Rage surged, but facts first. Footage captured them laughing, calling me the old hag, discussing my dementia, Kesha evaluating me for incapacity. They planned to declare me incompetent, seize everything. I backed up that recording everywhere. Cloud, USB, email. Days later, Kesha called about a geriatric center for tests. Just precautionary, Mom. I knew. A rigged diagnosis for guardianship. Derek controlling my life via Kesha. I called Julian, my old lawyer friend specializing in elder fraud. I sent samples. He was stunned by my evidence, clarity. We planned independent cognitive eval first, then police with ironclad proof. The eval was grueling, 4 hours of tests. Dr. Altha Gibson, sharp in her 50s, asked why I was there. I explained briefly. She shook her head. Results, top percentile, no decline. Her 15-page report, my shield against dementia claims. Invasions continued, 42, 43. In 44, they entered my bedroom, rifled my drawers, stole my mother's necklace, priceless to me. Nausea hit, but resolve hardened. I called Julian, ready to end it. The decision to set the final trap came after the discovery in the basement. That hole in the wall, drywall crumbled, insulation torn, a crude tunnel started toward the crawl space, marked the point of no return. It wasn't just theft anymore. It was destruction, vandalism, and now open conspiracy captured on audio. The words still echoed in my mind. When the old hag dies or gets put in a home, the house will be Kesha's anyway. Derek's casual cruelty, Marcus's laughter, the flashlight beams dancing over my family's history. I saved that clip in triplicate. Then quadruple, cloud storage, encrypted drive, emailed to Julian with password protection. No loose ends. I couldn't confront them yet. Emotion would ruin everything. As an auditor, I'd learned that the strongest cases are built quietly, methodically, until the evidence is overwhelming and escape impossible. Derek still felt safe, still believed I was deteriorating, still thought he had time. I needed to preserve that illusion while I prepared the kill shot. Julian and I met the next day at a quiet coffee shop far from my neighborhood. He arrived with a folder of notes and a grim expression. "Eloise, this is one of the most calculated cases of elder financial abuse I've seen in decades," he said after reviewing the latest footage. "But to make it stick, really stick, we can't just hand over videos and hope the police act decisively. Too many times, family thefts get dismissed as misunderstandings. We need to catch him in the act, with stolen goods in hand, in a way that leaves no plausible deniability." The plan he outlined was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Make the house appear completely vulnerable, empty and unprotected for an extended period. I would leave on a long vacation, tell everyone I was gone for a month or two, stop the mail, have the neighbor watch casually from afar, but the house would be anything but empty. Joe, the security technician Julian trusted from past cases, would upgrade everything. Additional hidden cameras with night vision, motion sensors on every door and window, smart locks that logged every key entry with timestamps, and, most crucially, a silent alarm wired directly to the police dispatch. No siren, no lights, no warning to the intruder, just a quiet signal. Intrusion in progress, address confirmed, owner verified absent. The risk was enormous. I would be leaving my home exposed to whatever damage Derek chose to inflict while I waited in a rented apartment 20 minutes away. More thefts, more destruction, possibly even structural sabotage if his treasure hunt continued. But the reward was finality. No more partial evidence, no more he said, she said. A felony arrest in flagrante delicto with physical proof of looting. I agreed. We spent the next 3 days preparing. I called Kesha and told her. I'd accepted a friend's invitation to stay in another state, somewhere warm, peaceful, a chance to clear my head. She sounded genuinely pleased. "That's wonderful, Mom. You deserve a break." Derek was on speaker. I heard his murmur of approval. When she asked about the house, I said I'd lock it, forward mail, tell Mr. Harlan to glance over occasionally. Derek jumped in. "An empty house that long isn't safe, Eloise. I can swing by regularly, make sure nothing happens." I thanked him but declined firmly. The neighbor had it covered. The line went quiet for a beat. I could almost feel his frustration through the phone. Packing was deliberate. I made it visible, suitcases in the driveway, boxes of clothes carried to the car while Mr. Harlan watched from his porch. I told him I'd be away several weeks, maybe longer. He nodded, cane tapping. "Safe travels, Eloise. I'll keep an eye out." Derek would check with him later. The story needed consistency. Joe arrived the following morning while I was still home. A quiet man in his late 60s, he'd seen cases like mine before. He worked efficiently. Tiny pinhole cameras and light fixtures, sensors on frames, the silent alarm panel disguised as a thermostat. The smart locks replaced the old ones. Every key turn would now log digitally. He tested the system twice. If anyone enters after you leave, dispatch gets pinged within seconds. They'll roll quietly, no lights, no noise, until they're at the door. I moved to the rented apartment that Friday. Small, beige, impersonal. A one-bedroom with thin walls and a view of a parking lot. I unpacked essentials, set up my laptop with multiple screens for live feeds, and waited. The first alert came that very night at 11:15 p.m. motion in the living room. Derek, flashlight in hand, sweeping each room to confirm I was truly gone. He made a call, gesturing, smiling, planning. 20 minutes, then out, testing the waters. The next afternoon he returned with Marcus. Empty duffel bags in, full ones out. Kitchen TV, study sound system, garage tools, items easy to fence. I watched in silence, documenting serial numbers where visible, noting timestamps. No alarm yet? Julian wanted escalation, greed. Over 5 days, 9 entries, different friends each time. They emptied my pantry of non-perishables, slept in my guest bed, sheets left dirty, used my bathroom without cleaning. One vomited in the upstairs toilet and barely rinsed it. The total stolen value climbed past $8,000. Each time, I added to my inventory spreadsheet item, description, estimated value, footage reference. I stayed calm by routine. Morning walks around the apartment complex, tea at set times, reviewing footage in segments so it didn't overwhelm. I spoke to Dr. Gibson weekly. She checked in, reminding me my sharpness was intact. Julian updated me on legal angles, burglary, grand larceny if values aggregated, criminal mischief for damages, conspiracy from the basement audio. The turning point came on the 6th day, Thursday night. 10:00 p.m., alert, Derek, Marcus, and the third man from earlier invasions. This time, they carried large moving boxes, blankets, packing tape. Serious intent. They started in the living room, disconnecting. The 65-inch TV, my main set, $100 new, wrapping it carefully. Then the game console I'd bought for my future grandson's visits. Paintings off walls, not for art but carved frames. Methodical, professional, almost. They moved to the bedroom. Derek opened my jewelry box, dumped everything into a velvet pouch, rings from anniversaries. Earrings my husband gave me, my mother's necklace. Marcus asked value. Derek guessed $5,000 plus. They laughed about my return. She'll come back, find it gone, have a breakdown. Then selling to us will be easy. That was it. I called Julian. Enough. They're looting right now. He contacted Detective Reynolds, who activated the protocol. Units dispatched silently. On the feed, I watched red and blue lights flash through windows. Derek froze mid-step, TV half-wrapped. Marcus dropped a bag. The third man bolted for the back, straight into officers. I drove the 20 minutes, heart steady, arriving as 4 patrol cars lined the street. Neighbors peeked from curtains. Derek sat handcuffed on the curb, protesting. "This is my mother-in-law's house. She asked me to watch it." Officers pointed to packed bags, including packing her TV and jewelry. Derek stammered, "I was storing valuables at my place for safety." Officers weren't buying. I approached the lead officer, identified myself. "I'm Eloise Vance, owner." He asked if I'd given permission. "No, never." Derek shouted, "She's confused. She has dementia." I handed over Dr. Gibson's report, 15 pages, dated 2 weeks prior, certifying full capacity. The officer scanned it. His posture changed. Inside, I walked him through the bags. TV, console, jewelry, paintings, all mine, all being removed. Photos taken, evidence logged. At the station that night, I delivered everything. 44 invasion videos, now 45 with the live arrest. Labeled folders, notebook logs, smart lock entry records, basement conspiracy clip, party footage. Detectives reviewed for hours. One, gray-haired veteran, said, "In 20 years, I've never seen a victim document like this. You built your own case." Reynolds took notes, asked why I'd waited. To make it undeniable. I knew he'd claim confusion. Derek Marcus, third man, arrested. Charges, burglary, aggravated theft, criminal damage, conspiracy. Bail $50,000 each. Derek couldn't post. Kesha arrived 2 hours later, furious. "What have you done to my husband?" She accused me of entrapment, pettiness. I offered the videos. She refused at first, then watched a clip. Derek laughing in my living room with strangers. Her face drained. Reynolds confirmed, caught red-handed authentic footage. She cried, asked how long. 3 months, 44 times before tonight. I showed the $110,000 offer versus $350,000 value. The basement hole. She collapsed, murmuring Derek had hidden it all. I took back her key. She left broken. That night, I returned home. Bags on floor, furniture askew. I cleaned until dawn. Therapeutic, reclaiming space. Found my mother's necklace in a bag. Held it, tears falling. Not just metal, memory. Derek had no right. The case was solid. No turning back. The morning after the arrest felt surreal. My house, once a sanctuary-turned-crime scene, was cordoned off with yellow tape fluttering in the breeze. Officers came and went, cataloging every item in the bags Derek had packed, photographing angles, dusting for prints they might not even need. My videos were already damning. I sat on the porch steps with a cup of tea that had gone cold, watching neighbors whisper and point. Mr. Harlan shuffled over with his cane. Concern etched on his face. "Eloise, are you all right? I saw the police lights last night." I reassured him it was handled, thanked him for watching the house, and promised to explain later. For now, I needed silence to process. Julian arrived by noon. We walked through the house together. noting damages, scuff marks on walls, cigarette burns on the dining table, the lingering smell of liquor and smoke in the living room. "This strengthens the case," he said quietly. "Criminal mischief on top of everything else." He helped me prioritize. First, change the locks again, new set, no spares anywhere. Then deep clean. I called a service that specialized in post-trauma restoration. They arrived that afternoon with industrial vacuums and enzyme cleaners. By evening, the physical traces were mostly gone, but the emotional ones lingered like ghosts. Derek remained in county jail. Bail hearings came quickly. His attorney argued family ties, first-time offender. But the judge saw the pattern, systematic, premeditated, and kept him locked up. Marcus took a plea deal within days. Guilty to lesser charges, 2 years. Testimony against Derek. The third man with priors got 3. Derek's case moved to trial faster than expected, 6 weeks out. His lawyer tried everything. Motion to suppress videos, denied. Private property, no privacy expectation for burglars. Plea offers, I refused restitution-only deals. Character witnesses, they crumbled under cross. I prepared meticulously. Julian coached me on testimony. Stick to facts, dates, evidence. Dr. Gibson's report became Exhibit A, proof I wasn't confused. My notebook, cross-referenced with timestamps from cameras and smart locks, became Exhibit B. The 44 prior invasions, plus the arrest footage, painted an undeniable picture. Kesha visited a week before trial. She looked hollow, pregnancy showing, eyes red from crying. We sat in the living room. She avoided the sofa where Derek had partied. "I'm so sorry, Mom, I was blind." I trusted him completely. She asked to testify for me. "I want the judge to know I didn't know, that he lied to me about you, about everything." I agreed. Her words would carry weight. Trial day arrived. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and tension. Former IRS colleagues filled the back rows, silent support. The prosecutor opened methodically, my testimony first. I described the subtle beginnings: unlocked door, missing bourbon, escalating to systematic theft, parties, basement destruction. I read from my notebook, exact dates, items taken. The defense tried to poke holes. "Perhaps you forgot some visits." But digital timestamps matched my notes perfectly. No wiggle room. Detective Reynolds testified next. Reviewed evidence, caught in the act. No permission. Dr. Gibson explained my evaluation. Top percentile, no impairment. Kesha took the stand, voice trembling. She recounted Derek's constant suggestions. "Your mom's forgetting things. She needs supervision. The house is too much. Let's buy it cheap." She admitted trusting him blindly, ignoring red flags. The defense pressed hard. "Are you testifying against your husband because your mother pressured you?" Kesha looked straight at them. "I'm testifying because he lied, because my child deserves to know right from wrong." The basement audio played last. The courtroom heard every word. Old hag, dementia, put her in a home. Jurors shifted uncomfortably. One wiped tears. Derek testified last, stammering, contradictory. I thought I had permission. It was to protect her valuables. The prosecutor dismantled him. Then why pack the TV? Why loot jewelry? No answers held. Closing arguments. Prosecutor called it calculated exploitation of perceived vulnerability. Defense appealed to sympathy. The baby, ruined family. Jury deliberated under 3 hours. Guilty, all counts. Sentencing 2 weeks later. Judge Harper spoke firmly. This was not impulse. 44 deliberate invasions. Manipulation of family. Attempt to discredit a competent elder. Age should protect, not mark for predation. 5 years prison, 3 probation, full restitution, $27,000, plus no contact order, rehab. Derek paled. His lawyer's plea for leniency fell flat. Kesha wasn't at sentencing. She texted, couldn't face it, focusing on pregnancy. Derek wrote from prison, apologies that rang hollow, using the baby as leverage. I didn't reply. Julian advised no contact. Threats in later letters went to parole. 4 months later, Kesha gave birth. A boy, Julian. She sent a photo. Beautiful with her eyes. I sent gifts, clothes, blanket, $5,000 savings. She called crying, grateful. We began tentative steps. Visits focused on the baby, no Derek talk. Therapy helped me. A counselor specializing in invasion. Trauma taught. Breathing exercises for night fears. I installed visible security. Ironic, as Derek once offered. Redecorated, new furniture, fresh paint. Basement became playroom, bright, joyful, erasing the whole. I started speaking. Community centers, retiree groups. Document everything. Don't assume you'll be believed, prove it. Stories poured in. Sons stealing pensions, daughters-in-law pushing incompetence claims. Julian helped form a nonprofit. Free evaluations, legal referrals, security installs. Dr. Gibson advised, Reynolds consulted, Joe trained techs. The book came next, 40 times. My story plus chapters from experts. Proceeds funded expansion. We helped hundreds, rural victims, low-income seniors. Awards followed. I spoke at ceremonies. We shouldn't need to be exceptional to be heard. Derek paroled after 3 years. Good behavior. At hearing, I requested community service, elder abuse education. He agreed. Completed hours speaking in programs. Kesha set strict rules, supervised visits, therapy. Julian calls him Derek, not Dad, his choice. 5 years on. I'm 66, house worth nearly $500,000 I won't sell. It's legacy, where I raised Kesha, loved my husband, defeated violation, built new purpose. Grandson Julian, 5.5, visits often. Tuesdays baking, Thursdays stories, Saturdays park. Basement plaque jokes. Here a fool sought gold and found consequences. Kesha became a social worker, domestic abuse specialist. Her pain gave insight. She helps others spot manipulation. Our bond healed slowly, honest, cautious, real. Derek faded, child support, monthly visits. No real apology. Doesn't matter. He faced consequences. Others learned. My nonprofit thrives. 400 plus helped. Workshops, resources, follow-up care. Every case a reminder. Age isn't weakness. Experience is power. I reclaimed my life. Routines once exploited are comfort again. Yoga, groceries, peace. Derek thought age made me vulnerable. He forgot it also made me unbreakable.